New school year starts today after being postponed from Friday. Part of the Fanling golf course is now open to the public. Premier Li Qiang will attend G20 Summit in New Delhi. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The first day of school after the summer holidays was delayed until today for most students because of last week's typhoon. As campuses across the city recover from the damage brought by Typhoon Saola, some students are happy they had extra time to finish their homework. Sharon Tang reports.
The familiar sound of tapping cards is back. That means the first day of school is here. Students at this primary school in Shengshui arrived at school at 7 a.m. today. The student said she's so excited to meet her classmates that she has brought little gifts. Super Typhoon Saola swept over Hong Kong last week, including Friday, which was originally scheduled as first day of school. Most schools pushed back the first day until Monday, which is today. But some students, like this boy, said he hasn't written a word for his English summer homework. Others used the extra days off to complete the unfinished work. A headmaster said teachers and janitors were asked to return to school yesterday to perform a full cleaning of the campus. That includes removing leaves and branches on the playground so pupils can resume classes as usual. He also thanked the government for announcing in advance the school suspension under the typhoon, which gave him enough time to inform parents. Secretary for Education Christine Choi inspected the first day activities at a secondary school in Fanling today. She noted the storm has caused flooding and damaged windows at individual campuses, but she is thankful each school can solve the problems within a short period of time. Meanwhile, classes for both the primary and secondary divisions of Diocesan Boys' School in Mongkok will only resume tomorrow. The school wrote in a notice that its buildings and trees have sustained varying degrees of damage because of Typhoon Saola, and staff members will conduct a thorough inspection of the campus to ensure all facilities are safe. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
After years of debate on whether a century-old golf course should be sliced up to build flats to ease the city's housing shortage, the government reclaimed 32 hectares of the golf course land last week. A section of the old course of the Fanling Golf Course is open to the public today, and the new facility includes a pet park and walking trail. Mimo Singhai was at the golf course.
This pleasant piece of Greenland, which used to be part of the Hong Kong Golf Club, is open to the public from 11 a.m. this morning. During a previous public hearing, most views were against using part of the golf course to build flats, as it would damage the city's reputation as an international business city. But despite the hot weather, many people decided to see the facility for themselves. Some decided to capture the natural scenery with their phone cameras. Others brought their pets to enjoy a walk. While some said they lived nearby, this woman traveled all the way from Sai Kung to Fanling.
We just decided this morning because we were just going to go hiking in Sai Kung, but then we decided since it's the first day they open, so we just come all the way here to check it out. I just arrived and I think it's very like a city. It's not as I expected. I thought it would be more like nature. But it's really not. I like Sai Kung better.
When asked about her perspective on how to use the 32 hectares of returned land, 9.5 hectares of which will be used for public housing, the woman said she prefers the site to be used for recreation and conservation purposes.
The inclusive park for pets is open between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. daily, while the walking trail is open between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Visitors can drive and park their cars in the nearby paid car park. Alternatively, they can take public transport, such as buses.
The site will be temporarily closed from mid-September to mid-November to allow the Hong Kong Golf Club to hold 2 international golf tournaments, including the Aramco Team Series. Mimo Singhai, TVB News.
Police in Kwintong have cracked down on 28 cases of online scams and money laundering involving some $47.5 million. Between the 11th and 31st of August, more than 70 people sought help from the Kwintong Police District over alleged fraud cases. They are related to online shopping, job hunting, and investment plans. One online romance scam swindled more than $10 million. 20 men and 9 women aged between 19 and 64 were apprehended. All of them are stooge account holders. They sold their personal or bank account details to a crime group to receive remunerations of between a few hundred to a few $1,000s. Most of them are unemployed. Police urge citizens not to lend their bank account for others to use for illegal purposes. A 20-year-old student at the University of Hong Kong was charged with 2 counts of indecent assault during an orientation camp involving nursing students. The case was mentioned at the Fanling Magistracy this morning. The court heard Tang Hoi-yin allegedly made inappropriate moves twice on a female participant there at the Po Lung Kuk Jockey Club Tai Tung Holiday Camp in Yuen Long. The defendant was not required to enter a plea. The case will be adjourned until mid-November, pending the police examination of the surveillance camera footage. The accused was granted a $5,000 bail. The standby signal number 1 is in force. This as severe tropical storm Haikui is now centered at about 520 kilometers east-southeast of Hong Kong. Having already made landfall in Taiwan, Haikui has forced the southern part of the island to come to a standstill. At least 78 people were injured in the storm, with 14 counties having suspended school. Jackie Lin reports.
In Taiwan's Pingtung County, the downpours gathered strength starting Sunday night. Outside this university, roads turned into rivulets, and some homes into pools. Kaohsiung also pounded by torrential rain, with some districts recording rainfall going past 100 millimeters in 3 hours. Under strong gusts, some trees collapsed in Gushan district onto a sheet metal shack. In Taitung County, billboards were ripped off a structure and fell onto motorbikes and shattered windows nearby. Haikui also churned through Hualien around eastern Taiwan, forcing this bridge to be closed overnight. As Haikui made landfall in Taitung Sunday night, it also marks the first direct hit by a tropical cyclone at the island in 4 years. Taiwan's meteorological authorities said another storm is around. Tropical depression Yunyang might strengthen into a typhoon and would likely edge towards waters south of Japan. This as Haikui has weakened into a severe tropical storm and is heading towards the coastal areas of Fujian and Guangdong. Fujian authorities have suspended some 70 passenger sea routes. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Premier Li Qiang will represent China at this weekend's Group of 20 or G20 Summit, with President Xi Jinping deciding to skip the meeting in New Delhi, India. No reason was given for Xi's absence. U.S. President Joe Biden said he was disappointed that he would not be able to meet the Chinese leader. Nazvi Karim has more.
President Xi Jinping has attended every previous G20 summit since taking office in 2012. He took part in the recent BRICS summit in South Africa, lending China's significant support to the expanding economic bloc founded by original members Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. For this year's G20 summit, though, Premier Li Qiang will lead China's delegation. The Foreign Ministry today confirmed that Li Qiang will be attending the event at the invitation of the government of the Republic of India. Relations between China and India have been affected by their disputed border that 3 years ago resulted in a violent clash between their troops. 20 Indian soldiers reportedly died and 4 Chinese. They have also clashed over trade and India's growing ties with the United States. India recently overtook China as the world's most populous nation, and the two are rivals in technology, space exploration and global trade. Earlier, US President Joe Biden said he was disappointed at missing out on meeting Xi.
I am disappointed, but I'm going to get to see him. Thank you.
China-US relations remain challenging despite recent visits by US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and other officials to Beijing. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Lately, rumors have swirled on the mainland that Yasuhiro Tsunoda, a former Japanese politician, has died of cancer after drinking so-called purified nuclear wastewater from Fukushima 12 years ago. Tsunoda received an interview to dispel the rumor. In 2011, the then Japanese cabinet political officer tried to prove that the treated Fukushima wastewater was drinkable and drank the water in a press conference. Last Saturday, Tsunoda, who is no longer in politics, had a phone interview with Kyodo News. He said what he did back then could not demonstrate the safety of the treated water, and the best way to do it is with statistics. Meanwhile, Taro Aso, vice president of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, said China's ban on Japanese aquatic food products is politically motivated. Beijing said Japan's decision to release the wastewater is a selfish act, and China and other stakeholders have a duty to protect the marine environment and food safety. Coming up, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky replaces defense minister. Burning Man Festival in the U.S. turns tragic with at least one person dead. Swedish police make arrest in connection with Koran burning. Welcome back. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky announced he is replacing his defense minister, Alexei Reznikov, who has led the country's military throughout the war with Russia. This as Russian President Vladimir Putin is hosting Turkish leader Tayyip Erdogan in Sochi for talks that may restart the grain deal, allowing Ukraine to export via the Black Sea. David Garrett reports.
Two presidents who have known each other for a long time. The primary reason for Tayyip Erdogan to be in Russia is to try to get the grain deal back on track. Can he convince Vladimir Putin to budge? Moscow pulled out of the original agreement a few weeks ago because of restrictions on their exports. Ukraine wheat was exported through the Black Sea via Istanbul. Many countries in the developing world need grain to ease food shortages. This meeting comes amid reports Russia launched a series of drone attacks on ports. Ukraine released these photographs of the aftermath of what they say was a Russian attack. The overnight drones targeted Ukrainian port infrastructure on the Danube River. Meantime, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced he's replacing the defense minister. He said Alexei Reznikov has gone through 550 days of war. I believe that the ministry needs a new approach, he said. Now, Rustem Umerov should lead the ministry. Umerov is on the far right here in a face mask. The 41-year-old's been the head of the State Property Fund. Departing Reznikov could become Ukraine's ambassador in London, though that's unconfirmed. One of the public faces of the war, he says he is open to new ventures. Seen here with former UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, Reznikov has built good relations with Britain during the conflict. Ukraine's president also says he struck a very important agreement on training our pilots in France. France does not have F-16 fighter jets, but does have Rafale warplanes and Mirage 2000 jets. Zelensky said he and Emmanuel Macron discussed what France could do to help protect Odessa. This would be crucial if a compromise can be agreed in Sochi to allow the export of grain again. David Garrett, TVB News.
Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has been on a military recruitment drive in the far east of Russia. Medvedev said 280,000 new recruits have signed up in Russia since January and hopes to boost the numbers further. Currently the deputy chair of the Security Council, the former president was in Sakhalin to speak to lawmakers about his plans to beef up the armed forces. The Kremlin have set themselves a target of expanding their combat personnel by 30% to 1.5 million, an ambitious task made harder by heavy but undisclosed casualties in Moscow's war against Ukraine. In the U.S., the Burning Man community event is an annual festival of art, self-expression, and self-reliance held in the Nevada desert in the west of the country. Elon Musk is among the celebrities who've taken part in the past. However, this year is a total washout, with a severe storm leaving tens of thousands of participants stranded and wading ankle-deep in mud. Organizers have told attendees to wait until it's safe to leave, although some have tried to escape the towns that are miles away. NBC with a story.
Tonight, chaos at Burning Man.
We're kind of screwed here.
Tens of thousands remain stranded after torrential rains led to a total lockdown of the annual festival in the remote Nevada desert. Dust turning to a mucky, messy mud.
The entire place is absolutely just soaked.
Authorities say one person died at the height of the storm, the cause of death under investigation.
I think I could be trapped here for a couple more days.
Suzanne Ford is among those burners still stuck on the playa.
What's it been like?
It's so muddy. Getting around, like just walking to your tent in the mud is impossible. You know, everybody's putting garbage bags over their shoes or their boots, or they're going barefoot because the mud, you just sink down into the mud. It's a quagmire. It's debilitating.
Organizers telling all attendees to shelter in place and conserve food, water, and fuel. The entrance to the camp and airport closed. Other than emergency services, no vehicles allowed in or out.
I'm actually going to try to make a break for it. They're saying the gates are still closed, but I've got a four-wheel drive car, and I'm going to try to make it out.
Others finding ways to escape, trudging through the muddy desert. Even comedian Chris Rock and DJ Diplo.
It's muddy still.
The performer posting about the ordeal on social media.
We walked 3 miles now. We got, I think, 5 more.
Making it out after hiking for miles and then getting picked up by strangers. The storm system causing problems across the state. In Las Vegas, one person has died and dozens rescued amid heavy rain and flash flooding.
Muddy, muddy, muddy Burning Man.
Back at Black Rock City, people trying to take it all in stride.
Maybe not the Burning Man experience you were expecting?
Well, it's a little bit of like a Raining Man experience.
Instead of a burn, feeling the brunt of a powerful storm.
In Sweden, police detained at least 2 people in the city of Malmö where a Quran burning took place. Scuffles erupted between rival factions, with the police getting involved. Muslim leaders in Sweden have called on the government to find ways to stop the burnings. Sweden dropped its last blasphemy laws in the 1970s. However, the government has announced an inquiry into legal possibilities for enabling police to reject permits for demonstrations over national security concerns. Pope Francis wrapped up his historic trip to Mongolia today, saying farewell to a tiny community of Catholics numbering less than 1,500. Francis received a send-off from Mongolian officials at Ulaanbaatar Airport, marking the end of his 5-day visit as he departed for Rome. Mostly Buddhist Mongolia has only 1,450 Catholics in a population of 3.3 million. On Sunday, the Pope praised Chinese citizens as a noble people, having earlier said secular countries have nothing to fear from the Church, which he said had no political agenda. Major mainland cities will allow home buyers to take preferential loans for first home purchases regardless of their previous credit scores. The hope of such a policy is to revive the country's property sector. The revised home buying regulations have already been implemented in first-tier cities such as Shenzhen, Beijing, and Shanghai. According to the mainland news outlets, the property markets of Beijing and Shanghai were active on the first weekend since the regulations were adopted. The number of international students coming to Hong Kong's universities took a dip during the COVID pandemic, but they are gradually returning. The University of Hong Kong has been ranked as one of the most international universities in the world, but its international student numbers still lag behind pre-pandemic days. Still, there are over 800 of them at HKU this academic year. Mimo Singhai spoke with 3 international students to find out why they came here.
Universities are often places where individuals can experience diversity. According to the ranking of Times Higher Education, the University of Hong Kong is the most international university in the world. What is it about the Hong Kong University, and indeed Hong Kong as a city, that appeals to foreign students? These 3 Year 1 students are from Mongolia, Tanzania, and Germany. Lucy Magashi is a Tanzania student who wishes to become a biomedical engineer and in the long term improve her country's healthcare services.
Kenya is faced with a lot of difficulties in the health care system, and so a lot of people do not have access to quality healthcare services. And so I learned about Hong Kong from my counselor. The previous year, before I came here, there was a student from the same organization that helped me apply to Hong Kong.
But this Mongolian student studying economics and finance hopes to work in the city, as he says he likes the vibrant environment here.
I've been to Hong Kong twice before, so I really love the general vibe and the energy here. My goal is to land a job at an international company in Hong Kong, and in the long term, my long-term goal is to start my own clothing brand.
Even German student Norman believes the city offers the best career prospects for him.
Hong Kong is like the gateway between Asia and Europe, because economically but also culturally, it is like a pivotal point for international exchange and cultural exchange. I will try to break in investment banking here in Hong Kong.
The university has over 800 undergraduate foreign students from more than 40 countries and regions so far this academic year.
The students said they have so far enjoyed the environment at the university and are looking forward to exploring the city. Mimo Singhai, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly.